Alright, welcome back guys. So if you saw my previous video, we were pulling some crypto prices from an API. And APIs are great because you're going to be getting back the same data in the same structure, well, not the same data, you're getting the data back in the same structure, and it's more than likely going to be maintained. That data source is going to be maintained by whoever's providing the API, and therefore you can quite comfortably build up an automated service or an automated script that's going to very comfortably and successfully each time pull that data without any issues. But sometimes you come across a site or a data source that just doesn't have an actual API, and that's where web scraping comes in. So along the same lines of the crypto stuff, there was another website that I frequently check. So my client was checking that other website, which so happened to have a API, which was great. But then there was also this one, which they wanted the information from, and there actually is an API, but I thought it would be more fun to do this as web scraping. Because so I've got this page open already, and you can see they are listing data points for a chart, showing different price points over the month, over the week, over the day for given crypto. So there's Ethereum, there's Bitcoin. And also a thing to note is, look how this all changes at the top when we switch between them, because that's going to come into play later. So basically, we've got this data here, and it's clearly got to be available. If it's being shown to us, then in theory we can access it. But this is a really good example in that if we wanted to quickly go fetch this via requests, if you guys remember Python requests, it's like one of the most standard libraries we use for fetching data from the web, because it's a wrapper around HTTP requests. It's a great one. But so if we wanted to, for example, go fetch this data and see what we get back, so response. Okay, so that's come back, we got it back. But if we print out the data, you won't actually see any chart data in here. Like, it's obviously a bit of a fuddled mess, but if you say, okay, let's just search for that last part of 322. If we search for that, we don't actually find that anywhere in the response, which makes me think, this is a good lesson for the future, makes me think it's coming in via Ajax. So also you can see that by the fact if you reload the page, loading, the page loads, but the chart is still loading. The chart and this other data only shows up after the fact. So that's often a sign that things are being done with Ajax. And that makes it very tricky to scrape it just with this very standard request import, have an URL, make a request, get the response. So now the thing is, this is where more interactive web scraping comes into play. This is when what I find you often have to do is basically emulate a person using the web. And that is where Selenium in Python comes into play. So again, just to show you what happens. So we've obviously got this, and we reload the page, and all these requests are firing off. And you can see here it's display ticker, check the response. So we get one price back, we won't get all the prices back. We get price page info, I don't even know what's in this one, we have to see. Oh, so this is kind of the description sections, it looks like, the paragraphs and whatnot. And actually you can see here, so here is the price and data that we wanted. So we could try send a request. We can see what happens with this. If we hit up that post, we are probably gonna get blocked by some form of authentication or token potentially, but let's see what happens. So if we update our URL, okay, Yeah, so there we get a 4-1. So that's, we're either missing a token because they probably got a cross-site scripting type thing because it's a post request. So that's when it becomes a bit tricky. So this is why I'm fairly keen on going the route of Selenium, where you emulate a person on the screen and you don't have to worry about getting around all these cross-site scripting things and cross-site forgery tokens and things like that. So as we start most of our projects, we're going to create our little directory for it. And also, if you remember, we're always going to be creating a virtual environment for this, because we want to wrap up, actually let's call it Luno N for now. And we always upgrade our pip at the start, otherwise we're going to be running a really old version and we're going to run into issues with that. And then we want to be installing Selenium as well. So there are a couple of instructions to do when you set up Selenium, because you have to download a driver as well, but I'll include those in the video description link, and they're fairly easy to get set up. And if you have any issues, just drop it in the comments and I'll help you out where I can. So now we're in our Luno environment, as you can see, and we've got our Luno Selenium. Okay, let's open that up. Okay, so in this one, we're going to do Luno data fetch. Okay, so you'll start to see, once you create one of these Selenium projects, you'll start to see patterns of the same thing over and over and over in your scripts. It's importing, set up the driver, define an URL that you want to fetch from, and then you are basically good to go. And there's always login and a bit of formatting on the log statement. So I've actually just got this in a text from when I was playing with this project earlier. And like I said, you got the login, got OS, because if you've seen in other projects, I use that quite often for creating the full URLs that we want to build up, because it handles forward slashes and backslashes for us, and we don't have to worry about missing it or making a mistake with string joining, and it just makes life a lot easier. And then time is because in this case, well, you'll see a bit later, but when you are doing web interactions, you often have to basically tell your script, your program, to wait until the thing that we expect to have loaded has loaded. Obviously there's a bit of finesse and guesstimating when it comes to guessing how long is this going to take, and it's affected by line speeds, and there are other ways to get around that. But if you just want to try something out quickly, it's a good way to just guesstimate on your current line, get something working, and then go make things a bit more complicated down the way. Okay, so back to the thing. Like I was saying earlier, when I click on the BTC, the Ethereum, these will change up top, which is great. So you can see we have essentially a base URL. Like if we were building an API, we have a base URL. That part's never changing, and it's only this last part that changes. So I've already had their base URL, and I'm just thinking ahead a little bit. So we know that this end part changes. So we could create a list of all these last pieces, these last endpoints, and we could fetch everyone if we wanted to. So we could loop through a list. So I'm gonna do it as a list, but I'm actually just gonna have only one for now. So if I was a for tokens, and then we wanted to build up the URL, then we're gonna end up with, once this runs, a thing that looks like that. Well, not ETH, but BCC. And also the run log statement. And remember, F strings are for Python 3.6 and up. So if you're using below 3.6, you're gonna have to use the old school format, which would be like that. Whoops, full stop. But I like F strings. Alright, so the first thing I'd like to do is just to make sure that this is going to work as we expect and go to the page we expect. So for now, I'm just going to quickly run this, and if everything goes according to plan, it's going to pop up with the page, and then yeah, we get the graph. So obviously now that we got this in front of us, we can fetch that data, and that's the next part. We got to work out how to fetch that data. So I should mention that I've obviously looked into the structure of the website before I started going to code. Ideally, you should do this part that I'm about to do first, which is you're going through the structure of the website to see if there actually is like a usable and a logical way that it's been set up and you can easily access what you're trying to access. So in this case, which really made life a lot easier, is after kind of digging around in the inspect element a little bit. So this is, you right click, you say inspect, you get to the thing you're potentially trying to find. So obviously you can see I'm moving, I'm highlighting. So normally I start with, I highlight the given thing and I just dig down, see if I can find the elements. So there's the Google chart, what actually gets drawn. But you can see this is kind of like gobbledygook a little bit. It doesn't really make sense, it's not easily laid out, etc. So from this step, what helped me find the correct data, and like I said, it just so happens that this was laid out very nicely in a place. So I just saw that one price is 152, 181. So if I search for that 152, 181. No, we actually don't find it there. But if I add the space in, there we go. So we actually see there was a hidden table that has all of the pricing data in the structure, in the table. So like I said, this is kind of like hitting the jackpot a little bit. But also then again, Luno has an API, so this isn't really necessary, but it's still a fun experiment to do. So if I just take this out, so now if I copy this just quickly into a text editor, so we can see it a bit more nicely. We can just have a bit better understanding of the structure without all the other stuff there. Okay, so there's a table element, which is cool. Now what I generally do is, okay, I see this table, there's no classes on this or anything like that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to check if there are any other table elements in this. And there are mentions of table, but only one table element. So this is like, again, hitting the jackpot. This is really lucky. So in this case, there is find element by tag. So I'm gonna go grab that and say table equals driver.find element. Oh, whoops. And that's gonna be table. Well, actually no, we don't even need to fetch the table, because what we just said, there is only one table, so there's likely only gonna be one table body as well. So if I just go down to the table, there we go. So there's probably only going to be one table body as well. Let's quickly just confirm that. Yep, and there's only one of one. So if we click back now to our PyCharm, so we know we want to fetch these rows from the T body, which we've already fetched. And if you remember, Selenium gives us that function find elements by tag name, which is going to return a list. It returns multiple elements as opposed to find element, which returns just one. So we want to return all the elements in the T body. So the TRs is equal to T body. Give me those elements, and then we can say for row and TR rows. And now, just to quickly show that we are getting what we expect, we can say inner Okay, so what I'm doing here is we're iterating. We've fetched all of these TRs. Now we're iterating through each one, and this get attribute in a HTML, it's a function which lets us fetch pretty much everything that's between that bracket and that bracket. Well, that open element, that close element. So it will return all this data, including the TDs. So for now, we're just doing this so we can test, but ultimately, if we want to work with this data better, we're going to process it just a little bit further so we can put this into a nice data structure. So then let's also, now that we've got the inner body, let's just print it out so we can check that it is working as expected. And there we go. So like we were saying, we've fetched all those TRs, the table rows, and now we're iterating through each one. So we got the 4th of Feb, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, etc. Now, if we want to quickly finish this off in a nice way, so if we want to build up a list of all those data points, we could say, okay, points, we can give ourselves a nice list. Now this is just to make it a bit cleaner and finish things off. But this, we could in theory stop here and then you guys can go off and process it a bit further, however which way you want, because we've got everything we need. Because now the last step in my mind is we need to fetch, like we fetched each one of these rows, we need to fetch each of these, of the TDs, and just put it into a nicer structure. So what I would do in this case is, so we can actually don't need this for now, but now we need the TDs. So doing the exact same thing as we did last time, but we're fetching the TDs, and we also got our list that we're going to pen things on. Now, if we see that there are only going to be 2 TDs returned, so we can say the first one is point date is equal to the TD0 dot get attribute. We're actually using this again because this, again, each of these is going to be a web element, so we need to fetch the data that's inside that. And the second one is the price, point price. And then if we want to make things a bit easier, we can data point date, point date, and again we can log that out just for experimentation. Alright, and there you see, we've added out each point each time. We've got it in that nice structure that we've worked with. So now if we wanted to, we could have also processed these dates better so we get them to actual Python date times, and we could then do some analysis on it if we wanted to. We could throw it into a database if we wanted to. We could email it to ourselves if we wanted to. But that's all part of just another conversation. It depends what you wanted to achieve with it. If you've seen my other video where we set up a cron job, we could throw this into a cron job now. And just a very simple side note, obviously the way we were developing this, we could see the browser opening and doing things, but you can run Selenium browsers, the automated browser, as something called headless, which means it runs without any screen actually showed before you. because you might run this on a server where you have no GUI, you have no screen. So in that case, you're just going to run it, you're going to let it handle everything in the background, get the data you want, and you print it out. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that one. As before, like, subscribe, and drop some comments if you found this beneficial, if you have any questions, or if you have any issues you ran into and you'd like a bit more help or explanation. Also, if you have any recommendations or suggestions for other videos you'd like to see done or concepts you'd like to see me go over. But yep, subscribe and like, and then also don't forget, in the video description is the free guide to top Django mistakes and Python mistakes that I've found with people I've coached with and people I've helped teach a little bit, and looking at projects from people just starting out in coding. So yeah, click that link and literally get that free guide. Chat soon. Have a great day, everyone.